So hi everyone. I think I have a tough act to follow. After Subhashji, I have to regale you with my stories. Plus there is lunch following it, so I'll try to be quicker, so to say. Uh, yeah, that's it. So I just, there's nothing formal. I just thought, we can have a freewheeling discussion. I'll tell you a little bit about, my view and, what I have seen in the interactive media world so far. And, happy to take any questions as we go along. But essentially, there are two things we could talk about. I could just spend a few minutes talking about, and I promise I won't take very long. We could speak for like, let's say, we can have a 20-minute session or something, and then we can go into an interactive session. But yeah, so, I could just tell you a few things about, at least my view on digital marketing. What is this world that we always keep hearing about, but many people don't know enough about. And then we could also see how the industry is growing. So these are the two things. And maybe we could start with just some context setting, right? What is a typical consumer, in the newspaper language, the typical reader, in the online language, the typical user, what is he or she like in this, in this new world? And I like to think of life in terms of, Bollywood pictures. So I have some pictures to just, kind of make our discussion more live. But, let's talk about a few characteristics of a typical reader, user, consumer in this new world. So the first thing is, the consumer today is, in this medium, more of an activist, so things have changed significantly from how they used to be in a newspaper only or newspaper plus television only world, because people, it's not a one-way communication anymore, right? Some of it is a brilliant flash of the obvious. I think all of us here understand that, but I think it's important to recognize that as you think through the marketing strategies for your clients or even for your own firms. So, the consumer is more of an activist, and what it means is, they don't like to just listen. They don't like to just see. They like to write, talk, sing, click pictures, click videos, upload, see if you can have conversation with your consumers in these new marketing methods or mechanisms. The second thing, very important, especially in a multi-channel world where people have access to television and newspaper and mobile and laptop and iPads and whatnot, is the consumer today is more of a multitasker, right? They have many problems they are kind of, dealing with at the same time. And what it means in our context is people would typically, they would be watching the television and at the same time they would be on their mobile or their iPad and so on. Now it's, it's fundamentally changing, I think, at least in my view, the way, one should be running marketing campaigns, because it's not just a matter of a media mix where you say, I'll allocate so much to television, so much to print, and so much to something else, and then good things will happen. It's not that anymore, because in marketing campaigns, marketing strategies, you do need to look at if you can use one channel for the benefit of the other, right? So in other words, your television campaign should also, or your print campaign should also account for the fact that these very consumers at that very time when they see the ad could also be, could also have a mobile phone in their hand, things like that. And I think the other important fact is, we all know we are a very young country, so the younger the audience, the more pronounced this phenomenon. I guess, some of you must have heard this way of putting it, but the fact is, if you look at most of the people, all of us in this room, we are all at best migrants to the digital world, right? So we were born in an analog world and we are coming into the digital world. But there's an entire generation, that's been around for several years. They are natives of the digital world, right? So for these guys, for those of you who have kids who are older, I'm sure you observe your kids, right? They interact with these new media completely differently. So one needs to understand that while today, the change has started happening in a major way, I think it's going to speed up further. It's going to speed up further, which is, an important thing to keep in mind. And now what does all this mean? A consumer today has a mobile phone, they have a television, this, that, and the other, and they're getting bombarded with marketing messages, right? So if you look at the consumer psyche, they're, how much they're able to retain from each marketing message, I think the situation is pretty much like this, right? So, the consumer today is very forgetful. What you tell him today, he'll forget tomorrow. So you need to keep this in mind. Again, when thinking of how much should be the longevity of any given campaign that you think. I think the other, overall, I think between all these factors, if you look at the last little point, which you can't read here, but the point that point is that, you know, in general, marketing in some ways is becoming tougher also. So we need to keep this in mind. And, you know, we at Quicker, I experience it from both sides actually, because on one hand, we spend a lot of money on television and other media. So we are obviously a marketer or a brand. But at the same time, if you think about what Quicker does, we are a classified platform, right? So it's a digital classifieds platform where people come and buy, sell, rent, find things from each other. So we are also in some ways, we are a bit of an agency to very small businesses. So while we have a lot of consumers buying, selling things from each other, I don't know if many of you realize, but actually we have about 5 lakh small businesses who come to Quicker every month, and they try to offer their products, services, etc. So, you know, we also see from an agency's point of view as to what does a small business want today. So some of these thoughts are kind of a collection of what I have observed over time, you know, from both sides of the table in some ways. So, you know, what does this mean now for an agency or let's say a client, right? So let's take the case of a typical client. The client will say, okay, I want to do something in digital. So, you know, what do? They come to an advisor or an agency or somebody they respect, and they get this great advice saying, get a fan page on Facebook, life will be good. You know, now this is like telling somebody who is saying, I want to be a Formula 1 racer, that go buy a Maruti and you are set, right? That's, you know, it's just nearly not enough. You know, it's very, very far from where you need to be in these media to be able to actually get some meaningful benefit. So our client basically, you know, puts up a fan page, puts some, you know, photo and all that, and then, you know, says nothing is happening. So then they again come back to the advisor. Now what do I do? So the next stage is, okay, why don't you become like a little cooler, right? Write some cool content, post some pictures, post jokes, Bollywood, cricket, everybody loves it. So just, you know, start creating depth in your fan page and good things will happen. Again, you know, this is like saying, go return your Maruti, buy a Lamborghini and you will be a Formula 1 racer. You know, not going to work, right? You need to know more. You need to actually do more. So again, our man comes back. So now, you know, okay, you should change your status on Facebook and, you know, you should tweet every hour. You know, this is again the equivalent of saying, okay, fine, now you're a Lamborghini, just press the accelerator, you know, goddamn hard and you'll be in business. Again, you know, not enough. Now, this is the client situation, right? The client doesn't really know often, bhaiya, main kya karunga, right? Because I'm doing everything. People will say, well, it's not, you know, exact science, you need to try things and so on. But what is happening from the consumer side in the meantime? If you look at the consumer reaction, you know, the next page that basically has a borrowed line, which I loved. It's a, you know, I think it was a joke book where I saw it as a title of the joke book, but I think in some ways it really sums up the reaction of the consumers today when they look at all these Facebook status updates, etc. from companies. And that is this, right? They just don't care, you know, there are so many, you know, I as a consumer might be seeing like, you know, Facebook status updates from like 5 companies whose fan, or, you know, 500 companies whose fan I became. But, you know, I don't care. There is social status ki aisi ki taisi, you know, because it doesn't mean much to me. It doesn't even associate with the brand that well. So you end up actually hurting your brand more than helping. So, you know, in this kind of a complex world, what does a client really need? You know, if we think about it, just step back and think about it, you know, and some of this stuff is more, you know, my experience as a client, right, at Quicker. There are, you know, 2-3 key things I don't think it's very complex, but there are, I would say, some basic principles to keep in mind. One is, you know, it's not about just making an ad anymore, it's about actually generating conversations, right? So it's very important not to be pedagogical, sort of, you know, just to preach to users. It's not going to work because they want to participate, you know, they want to actually talk back with you, they want to give you feedback and so on. So that's the first point. Second is, you know, you need to think in terms of multiple channels together. It's not about allocating a media budget between 3, 4, 5 different channels. It's about how do you make them sing together, so to say. And, you know, there I'll give you an example of, you know, what we do, for example. I don't know if some of you might have noticed our ads. We are the only internet company that actually started telling people, when in our industry, by the way, just to give you some context, it's very fashionable to talk of, you know, unique visitors, page views, visits, hits, all this stuff. And they are important, you know, this traffic stuff is important. But that's not all there is to business, right? You need to actually get people. In my world, for example, you know, I feel very happy I get whatever, you know, 30 million unique visitors and all this, but that's not enough. You know, I need to get these people in my world to come and post ads on the website or reply to ads or do something. I'm a classifieds platform, right? So, you know, we thought about how do we make people do that, because mass market India, if you look at people, you know, you have, let's say 10-15% people online, but most of India still is not online, right? Now, all of us know that this market is going to shift because more and more people are coming online. But how do we interact with them today? Why am I on television? I'm not on television to drive my unique visitors. That I can do on Google AdWords, right? I am on television more because I'm trying to create a brand in minds of people who are going to come online tomorrow, day after, and so on. And for them, we thought of this idea saying, while we are an online company, why not ask people to just post an ad on voice, like they've been doing for years on newspapers. So we started asking people that was give us a missed call, and we'll call you back and we'll take an ad on the phone. Now, if you think about it, what is our strategy there? Our strategy is to make a person a quicker user even before he or she becomes internet user, so that we can handhold them into this new medium. So it's in some ways an example of using multiple channels together to actually drive home a point and try to capture the kind of users you are trying to go for. Third point is very important, which is your call to action in this new world is very easy. Earlier, mostly the call to action used to be about making a consumer purchase something. So you basically you put together an ad, you think of your business objectives, you give a creative brief to the agency, they go and shoot an ad, you buy a lot of media, and then you hope like hell it will work, people will come and buy my product, which is great, but it typically doesn't happen more often than it happens, right? So very high risk. But in this new world, your call to action is very easy. Even if, even for fence sitters, you don't have to say you have to buy my product. You can still get feedback from them, engage them on other media, even if they are fence sitters yet. So that's, I think, a very good thing about this medium. And then I think last but not the least is here, you need to move with these things fast. You need to experiment. Here if there's one thought that I would like to leave you with about digital marketing, the biggest point is that you can really start small here. So whatever the size of client you are looking at or working with, there's this magic little circle that we at least think of in our world. You can test things a lot, and it's very important. So you don't need to start like a big ass, really big national campaign on day one. You can test it within one little part of your target audience, and you can actually start seeing if it is working. Very important to have that test-based philosophy, because again, things don't always work, but you don't need to spend a lot of money to learn that. Just to give you a sense, at Quicker today, if I look at various things in our website that we are testing, we would have over 100 tests running right now at this moment in different cities in Quicker. Quicker in Bangalore might have something different than Quicker in Delhi and so on. Very, very important to test, because that's a great way to see what works without wasting money, which was just not possible in, earlier. If you were on TV, by definition, you became a national brand, and there is no, you have to sort of go on TV nationally to see if something works. That's not the case here. Second, analysis. So, when you actually do the testing, etc., it's very important to have people on the team that actually can analyze the data for your clients. So I would say, actually I would go to the extent of saying, if you look at digital marketing, it is increasingly becoming a game of numbers. If you look at my marketing team at Quicker, I would actually have half the people would be people like us in this room who actually have sort of a marketing background, who get the brand side, get the software side. But actually the other half would be these number nerds, number geeks, who basically just look at millions of data points that come from a website, for example, who's clicking how many times on which button, they go down to that level. So these are people that look nothing like marketers. And we need those kinds of people in this new world. So it needs to have both the sort of right and left side of the brain working together in the digital media. And then last but not the least here, after you've done all this, it's very important to either scale fast if you find something that is working for your clients, or fail fast. It's totally okay, it's accepted actually. So we do like to inculcate this philosophy of fail fast also in addition to scale fast, because again, your investment is limited, you are running tests, actually more of them would probably not work than they will. So it's important to recognize that and just move on, as opposed to just going on beating a dead horse. So these are some thoughts. And now, in terms of industry, if you see the way it is evolving, I'll just show you some pictures just to give you a sense. If you look at the internet growth, this is the number of users, by the way, in the country, last few years and next few years. So as you see, this curve is basically accelerating, right? The growth is accelerating. So we'll have more and more of these people coming into the market. The other important point is, if you look at the daily internet users, so this was annual, right? How many people are using the internet totally in India in 1 year? This is daily. So the daily curve is actually becoming even, steeper, which means not only are more people using the internet, they are also using it more often. And when I say internet, I mean, I use mobile and desktop, laptop, iPad, all of this interchangeably. So it's like one big thing. Now, this is impossible for you to read, but what you're seeing here is, if you look at the number of internet users in the world in each country today, okay, last year basically, you see that India is that blue bar. We are already the number 3 country in the world in terms of number of people who use this medium. But the important point is, how many more people can come into this medium in each country, right? So first is China, second is the US, third is India, fourth is Japan, and so on. If you see the headroom to grow, how many people are not online who can come online, will obviously, be a very big market. The other important point to understand here is, if you look at, I don't know if you can see it that far back, but the darker parts of these graphs are basically how many people are online today. Look at, as compared to India's population, how small are the number of people online today. And because of mobile, this darker part of the graph will grow. Now, we are the only major market in the world, very important to notice. We are the only major market in the world which will literally grow several times because of mobile. Because of mobile, the remaining part of our graph will get filled up, or not remaining, but let's say even if we reach 50%, 40% penetration, we will actually expand our number of users 3-4 times. China is not going to do that because they had enough people on desktop and laptop. US is not going to do that. None of these other countries will do that. So we are the only major economy in the world where the market is poised to grow several times. So basically the point is you can't ignore it. We are the first country in the world. The orange line here is basically mobile internet users, and blue line is the percentage of basically online users who are, blue line is desktop and orange is mobile. We are the first major country in the world where mobile internet users already became higher than desktop. We are the first country. So it's very important, this wave is coming. Now the thing is, we have 2 choices, right? We can kind of close our eyes to it and deal with the wave in a different way. And when a big wave comes, if you close your eyes, then typically, that's how you, so it's kind of our choice. We want to do this or we want to do this, we're better off riding that wave, and it does present good opportunities. So it's just a matter of, I think, experimenting, changing our mindset, and, listening to the consumer overall. Hope it was useful, and now we can go for lunch.
Thank you, Pranay. Now, gentlemen can ask questions. I think Neville had a question here.
There are 80 more slides.
Sorry?
There are 80 more slides.
Oh, I was trying to scare you there. I'm not sure everything.
Okay, Pranay, thanks a lot. That's a great presentation. So, I had a question. I myself in the digital business. So the question is, for the kind of money that you've spent on television, and Quikr became a brand online first before it went on television. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's right. If you took all the money that you spent on television, and if you put that money into building the brand online, buy all the real estate space online, do you believe you would have got the success that you have got? Because you're anyway talking about 137 million internet users. The headroom is all the way up to 150. Wouldn't you think those would be your first low-hanging fruit to convert into buying and selling or posting or whatever? Do you believe it would have been so? I'm just asking you a question. If you had taken all that money that you spent on television and pushed it online and be on every site which Indians go to, be it through mobile devices or through the PC or whatever, do you believe you would have achieved the same level of success, or you could have?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, and why?
Yeah, so I think our market is, first of all, I think each medium has its role to play. And what I have found in our experience is, online is very good for getting a lot of people. It's very good for generating trial of a platform. You can send people relatively easy, 3 rupees, 2 rupees, 4 rupees a click, and they are on your website. They are experiencing your product if you are a digital company. So in our context. But when it comes to building the brand, I think it gets built 2 ways. One is, your website, etc., or your mobile app. Those things need to be they need to provide a very good user experience, and over time, you deliver that product experience, and people start seeing you as a good brand. But I think if you look at mass market India, it still attaches a certain level of credibility to a company that is on TV, which it does not for a long, long time if you are a pure online marketer. That's what I found. So we've been building this for about 4.5, 5 years. First 2-3 years, there was no TV at all. Because we are building a marketplace. It's important for us to actually have something that we can go on TV about, right? If you have like one buyer and one seller, what are you going to do on TV for? But over time, when we became big enough and we felt like we can now deliver on the promise of helping people sell their stuff, buy their stuff, find a job, whatever, that's when we started doing TV, because we felt like now we have reached the limitations of the online medium, the digital media. So I would, to come back to, it more specifically, I still think like, at least for the foreseeable future, there is no way except, television, print, outdoor, etc. in terms of, brands. I mean, you need to do online on that front also, but I think these other channels are very, very important.
Which is not so in most countries, right? Because most online companies don't do this kind of television advertising in most of the market. I mean, Yahoo, Google, for that matter, have not gone on television to create their brands. They built their brands online. And I think even Myntra, if I talk about Flipkart, which is now on television, I'm saying they've built their brand per se online. Flipkart was already selling quite large before it went on television. So I'm just trying to figure out that obviously they're getting users to come to their sites from that 137 or 150 million. That's where they're getting the repeat users. So I'm just trying to figure out, does it make sense to spend the kind of money you spend on television? And if you were to use all that money to build and do brand advertising and buy every front page space of an online site, would that give you better results than going on television? That was my question, that's all. So.
Yeah, just a brief another comment on that. See, it depends on what your aspiration is, what kind of business you're building. See, I'm basically building a classified business where I need buyers and sellers. Now, a lot of sellers of these used goods, etc., they would be people sitting in this room. But if you look at a guy who's trying to buy a used motorcycle, used furniture, chances are he may not be online today. So for us at least, using reaching the demand part of our platform, we do need to go to these other media.
Thank you.
Any other question here? So I have a question, Pranay. We have been talking about IndiaBee a lot. Would you tell us your experience? How many, what part of usage of Quicker comes in from non-metros and smaller towns? I'm sure we have been talking about advertising, and the television advertising would have definitely made you reach out to the pockets which are not so online friendly. Do you see people coming in from that side, and what kind of percentage, and is there more for selling or more for buying? Some numbers if you could just throw.
So we get about half of our users come from non-metros, and that is
half.
Increasing. And the percentage is increasing. So I think there is a bit of a revolution happening outside of the big cities where we live, and it's hard to actually understand that unless you actually either are running a platform which tries to reach these users, or you are from those towns. And so my hometown is Udaipur. I come from a small town, so I keep going there, and I can see that revolution even in person. In terms of specific numbers, so we are about we get about 30 million plus, so 3 crore unique people to Quicker every month. So it's not for us. I think we need to go beyond online to get more people. But if you see today, we are a marketplace. We need both buyers and sellers, right? We are more of a supply constrained platform today. If you see Quicker's TV ads, it's all about list your stuff to sell. Because it's very easy to get the demand side of our platform from online. When you want to buy a car or look for a job, you go to Google and search for it. But you don't go to Google to say, to search for where should I sell my car. There, I think you need to have that brand in your mind to actually think of it and just directly go and list there. So we have more buyers than sellers. That's how I would put it.
All right, and this has been since you're attracting a lot of people from different parts of the country, and to come across, you've almost aggregated kind of a profile. Do you ever see also turning Quicker into an advertising portal as well, where you get brands to advertise and say that, hey, look, I'm reaching out to so many people. Would a bank come and advertise because there are transactions happening? Do you see advertising as a model?
Some of it is happening. See, it's very fashionable again in our industry to talk about traffic and all this, and there is this centuries-old, time-tested method to run a business, which is also to make money, right? So we are beginning to think of that side for the last, I would say, 18 months. So we do have a small ad sales team right now. A lot of people, like I said, they come to the platform to buy stuff, right? So it's a very attractive population for advertisers, especially because, see, I'm not running a news website where people are coming to read news or Bollywood
and
gossip.
Transactions happening.
Yeah, so these are people who are coming to buy, and we actually know if somebody is going and answering 2-3 ads for a certain kind of car, I know a lot about that person without getting them to fill a form. I just need to seek their permission to connect them with advertisers. But I know the guy's city, I know that he's looking for a Honda versus a Maruti, he lives in Bombay or Delhi, this is his phone number, whatever. Right? So as long as I have his permission, it's a very targeted kind of transaction.
So that's about a lot about digital. Okay.
Yeah, I think you made a very valid point there. The demand side is there, but the supply side. I think the same thing happened when people went into retail, right? I mean, I'm saying on the ground retail. Many a times the demand is there, but supply side has been a problem.
Or the other way.
Sorry?
Or the other way, some cases. There is a lot of supply.
Yeah, it could be. But on e-commerce, whatever I have understood is supply chain is always a big issue. How do you want to mitigate that risk?
So we are not a pure play e-commerce platform, right? We are not selling anything ourselves. So in fact, the very challenges for pure play e-commerce, which is delivery, warehousing, all this stuff, right? Credit cards, those become actually a positive for us because our platform does not require a person to make his decision online. You transact in person. See, India is still a very, people like to transact in person. They like to touch and feel the product. We as a society love to haggle and all these reasons, right? Not enough people are educated to make a purchase decision online. They're not comfortable. So for all these infrastructural, cultural reasons, a classifieds platform, which is what Quicker is, appeals to a much larger number of people. Another way to look at it is we are initiating a lot of people into the digital commerce world without asking them to make their decision online. Does that answer your question? We are playing the nursery of e-commerce, if you will. Everybody sort of likes to use these kinds of platforms. Some of them actually end up buying something online directly, but many of them don't. We don't sell stuff, so we don't need to worry about warehousing and all these things.
Yeah, just get the question. Mic to him, please.
How you make revenue?
I told you, right? It's very fashionable in my industry to not talk of that. But let me spend about a few seconds on that. So last 1.5 years we've been building our revenue streams, and we have 3 revenue streams. One is advertising, which is what we talked about. But then even more importantly for us, we generate more revenue from small businesses who are trying to reach these consumers. So we let consumers transact with each other for free. But there is a very large number of small businesses. I was mentioning about 5 lakh small businesses use Quicker every month. These are people like car dealers, real estate brokers, coaching class owners, hobby class owners. A lot of new cell phone dealers. People like that. They are trying to get customer leads. So for us, we have a sales force that basically goes and sells premium listings on Quicker to them, or we send them customer leads, and that is actually a larger share of our.
My next question, how different it is from Just Dial?
It's a little bit different because you call Just Dial when you need a phone number. So it is.
They have a website.
No, I understand. Everybody has a website. We also have a phone number. But see, we are more of a we have a digital company, right? We are a company that was born in the digital world and that is extending to voice to get more users who will tomorrow come online. They are a phone number company that was born in the voice world and that also has a website. But I'm saying the focus of the consumer, when you call Just Dial, is a phone number. You're looking for a Chinese restaurant's phone number, the local drug shop, chemist shop's phone number, and so on. So you go to Just Dial when you're looking for a phone number. You come to Quicker when you're looking for a product. When you're buying a car or a house, phone number is not enough, or looking for a job, right? You need to actually do more research. What kind of cars are available? What kind of houses are available? So so that's one difference. The second is Just Dial is more of a services category company. People don't call them for things like jobs and to buy cars and stuff, right? So categories wise, we have some overlap in the services side, but for most part, our categories are different. Please.
So eBay, I think long back started as a classified, then they had power sellers, and then in US we saw a lot of people having stores saying we sell your stuff on eBay. Have you thought about this model in India, maybe power sellers in small cities selling local stuff on Quicker?
Yeah, so it is a thought that has definitely crossed our mind. We've sort of flirted with this idea, especially in the recent times. I think our focus was on making sure that we get as many sellers and buyers to transact with each other as possible. But yeah, now it's a natural question for us to ask ourselves, which is, should we extend this, user engagement further and say, can people set up shopping carts on Quicker? I think going back to what you're saying, I think it's definitely within the realm of possibility. We don't have any immediate plans of doing that, but given the large number of small businesses we get, and it's because it's a simple to use platform. You don't need to do much to start using it. That is why we get so many people. So now we are beginning to think maybe at some point it might make sense, but right now we don't have that.